Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I'll be wrapping up my coverage of the U.S. Figure Skating Championships by recapping the men's event. So, the men's event was the last event of the championships, and U.S. Figure Skating posted yesterday that they had over 60,000 spectators come to the event over the course of the 4 days, which sounds like fantastic numbers, especially compared to really low attendance in San Jose last year. You had the COVID issues going into nationals in 2022 in Nashville when they changed their COVID policies, had the uptick in COVID cases and offered everybody refunds. And then in 2021, of course, you had the Las Vegas Nationals with no spectators at all. So it's definitely been a while since we've had a nationals that was this exciting and this robust. And it sounds like the tourist commission in Columbus really pushed the event, that tickets were very affordable for people to bring their entire family. And there were a lot of fans who weren't even ice skating fans who just wanted to be entertained and come to a night out. And so I really hope that not only future cities that host the event, but U.S. figure skating in general really take some notes from what Columbus did and shares that with future hosts. I also want to say that a lot of people ask during nationals, okay, so where's nationals next year? Well, of course, that hasn't been announced. This year's nationals actually wasn't announced until the summer, which I think, again, is a real missed opportunity to go ahead and have those things in place. Like I remember back in 2019, they announced where nationals was going to be for the next 3 years. So I knew at that point nationals was going to be in Nashville. And I told my family at the time, like, just so you know, 3 years from now, I will be going to U.S. Figure Skating National Championships in Nashville. I'm going to be out for a week. And they're like, oh my God, Kim, what are you talking about? Like, that's 3 years from now. But I don't really understand. I mean, obviously, they don't have somebody lined up. Otherwise, we would all know about that. But why they can't plan these at least a year in advance so that as you're ending one championships, you're able to pitch your next year's championships. All right. So getting into the results here, the winner was Ilya Malinin, and this was his second U.S. national title after his first one last year. Super strong in the short program here. No quad axel in the short program here, as you would expect, that there was no need to pull that out. I feel like Ilya has really been changing up his content in his short program for some time, really the last couple of seasons. I think he's been pretty consistent with the Lutz triple toe as his combo, but he sort of played with having the quad toe as his solo jump. This season, obviously, he did the quad axel as his solo jump at Grand Prix final. And I know that last year we saw a lot of iterations based upon his hip injury at the time. So sometimes he would do a quad toe, triple toe as his combo and do a quad Lutz as his solo. And so it's definitely played around with a lot. It's been a very strong vehicle for him this year. I think he can really sort of get in and lean into the Malagueña music for him. The free skate was unfortunately like it was for all of the winners. Like every single national champion here had not their best performance in the free skate. Now for Ilya, he still won the free skate, unlike the other three disciplines where they all lost the free skate. But it definitely was closer than he would have liked and just not the performance that he would have liked. So he came out, landed the quad axel right off the top, not his worst or best quad axel, just kind of right in the middle. And then he did a quad Lutz, so he looked like he was totally on with his quads. And then he popped the quad loop into a double. Then he did a quad Salchow, and then on his quad Lutz, he fell, and so he didn't get that quad Lutz triple toe combo off in the second half of his program. And because Ilya, this is where he racks up all of his points in the second half of the program with all of these crazy combinations that he does. And then he had a single toe. And so I also kind of felt like just the middle of his program here just felt like a lot more empty than it has this season. He was sporting a new costume. I don't know anything about Succession. I don't know what it's about. So I don't know if this costume with the mock bow tie and buttons was more authentic to the Succession TV show than what his previous one was. I will say, like, a lot of athletes in general tend to be fairly superstitious. And as long as things are working, they tend to keep things the same. And so Ilia's had super strong season. Won Grand Prix final, lost barely at Grand Prix France to Adam Seo Himfa. And so I guess I was a little surprised that he even changed anything. And so this costume comes out. He doesn't have a great performance. Is he going to like be superstitious and go back to the other one? Or is he going to stick with this one? We'll see. But he did throw this insane Hail Mary jumping pass as his last jumping pass, which was a triple Lutz, triple axel, triple toe, which was just stupid. It's so insane. Only Ilia would throw that kind of thing in. And of course, that was his highest scoring jumping pass of his entire free skate. So very impressive there. He got all of his levels on his spins, only a level 3 on his step sequence, which again, just kind of showed to me that it just wasn't, the performance just wasn't quite there. He was having boot problems like all week and for the last couple of weeks at home. Said he got new boots after Grand Prix final and they just didn't feel right. And so he went back to his old ones. And so he talked about it after in the press conference as well, that was really what he felt like was sort of hindering his performances here. So hopefully things that he'll get straight in between now and the World Championships in March. I do wonder if Ilia struggles a bit with motivation coming into nationals because he doesn't have a peer here. His peers are international, specifically really Japan, and then this year Adam Seo Himfa of France. Now last year Jason Brown obviously got very close to beating him in the free skate, and if Jason had had a better free skate here, that definitely could have been a possibility again this year. But in general, he doesn't really have a competitor. I mean, even with the free skate that he put out this weekend, he was still 30 points ahead of his next competitor, Jason Brown. So I wonder, and I certainly don't see anybody in our current crop of men that could really push him at all. But there's always this little lingering thought in the back of my mind, might Vincent Zhou ever come back? And he didn't completely shut the door when he left after the 2022 World Championships. And I think in our mind, we always thought that he might resurface at some point once he got a couple of years of school in. And I certainly haven't heard anything to the contrary, but I feel like if Vincent were to come back, that might be somebody that could push Ilia at nationals, because Vincent is somebody that scored over 300 points internationally. He is somebody that had, all the quads and had improved his artistry quite a bit before he left. And also you would think that in the time period between him stepping away and a potential comeback, skating in shows, skating for fun might have the opportunity to develop that second mark a little bit more. And so that to me might be the only real competition that you would see for Ilia at nationals. And outside of that, it's really hard to see that. And I could see where motivation for him might not quite be there to really bring his best. Although you should want to bring your best in nationals. And I'm not saying that he wasn't by any stretch of the imagination. Otherwise, why would he do quad axles and all of these things to try to keep it up? But I do think that it would be nice if he had a little bit of competition at nationals to just push him a little bit. In second place here was Jason Brown. And he had an uncharacteristic mistake in his short program. So he was debuting a new short program here. I watched several of his run-throughs in practice and they, looked pretty good. Sometimes he would have a scratchy landing here or there on his combo, but unfortunately for him, just fell right off the top on that triple axel. Everything else in his routine was clean, and so he was able to stay at third behind Maxim Naumov barely, because even those from competitors behind him that landed a clean quad, Jason can make up for that in his program components. Now, once he gets to the world stage and he's up against several men who do 2 quads in their short program, he can't make up for that gap with the program components, but he definitely can at nationals. In fact, Jason is someone who's always like the lovable teddy bear. But there was a quote that Adam shared on the world feed that said, if the younger generation wants it, they have to take it, talking about him continuing to compete. And basically at this point, he is planning to continue on to Milano. in Italy in 2 years for what would be a third Olympic berth for him. So, and honestly, I can't see anybody that would really push him away, because that would require Camden, Maxim, Andrew, of the current competitors that we have. Maybe you could throw Yaroslav in there on a good day, but that would require two of them to really push him out. And it's hard to see that happening right now. Now, 2 years from now could be forever an eternity in the figure skating world, and it gives people time to improve, and they all compete more than what Jason has. He's basically competed in a lot of different shows. He hasn't committed to sort of that full-time amateur career, and why should he? He's 28. Like, go make your money, show up at nationals and do your thing. But he definitely was beatable here because the free skate wasn't perfect either. He did land both of his triple axels off the top, but had an issue with the loop turned out of that. He also, it looked to me like he two-footed that triple Lutz, triple toe, but he got positive GOE on it. His triple flip Euler, triple Salchow, he had a hand down, and he just popped his last double axel into a single. So he did leave some points on the table. No disaster by any stretch of the imagination. And he ended up second here, just a couple points ahead of our third place competitor, who was Camden Polkanen. And Camden has been at nationals a lot, and he has underwhelmed a lot. His first year was in the 2019 U.S. Nationals. He was 12th. In the following years, he's been 7th, 8th, 5th, and then 8th again last year. And so this is his first year actually making it onto the podium. And as far as I can tell, this is the first time that I can recall that Camden has had two relatively clean performances at the same competition. Like, even at the 2022 Nationals, he had that just fantastic free skate to move up to 5th. And then at the 2022 Worlds, he had that fantastic free skate to get a bronze, and they call it a short medal that he got for finishing third in the free skate, but he was 5th overall in the world, which I was like, this man just finished 5th in the world and he was 5th at nationals. Like, come on now. But he's had such potential, and it just always is something somewhere that's just not quite all the way there for him. And so this year it really came together. The only issue that he had in his short program was really an issue with his camel spin. Only a level 3 and got negative GOE on that. And that was really the difference between him being in 5th and probably would have been in 2nd. In his free skate, perfect quad toe. I mean, I think that was like the best quad toe I've seen Camden ever do. Like, then he went straight into like a triple Lutz, triple toe. He had a nice triple axel Euler, and then he popped his triple Salchow. He had his hand down on his loop. I thought everything else was an A+. So he was, again, if you sort of look at the places that he could have improved a little bit in his free skate, all of a sudden, he could have been very close to Ilya in the free skate as well. I thought he should have been 2nd overall. Honestly, I thought his PCS were too low. They had him 4th behind Noamov, and I just did not understand that. If you'd given Camden an extra couple of points where I felt like he should have been, then he would have been in a dead heat with Jason Brown. And I thought Camden should have won 2nd. And it's not that I thought that Jason Brown was overscored by any stretch of the imagination or propped up. I just felt like Camden was a little underscored, especially in his PCS in the free skate. He was 3rd in PCS in the short program. So why was he 4th in the free skate? I don't get it. And I feel like he's definitely got at least 2, if not 3 points better in PCS than where Maxim is. If you look at their PCS, which I forgot to mention, like, Ilya's PCS were once again ridiculous. In both the short and the long program, I think he was only behind Jason by like a point, which, come on. Like, yes, Ilya has improved. He is not Jason Brown. Like, a lot of people in the free skate actually had Ilya 1st in composition in PCS, like with either better or very similar or the same score as Jason Brown. Don't understand that, which also failed to mention Jason Brown earlier this season was doing a Tarzan free skate, which got very mixed reviews. I personally did not watch it at Shanghai Trophy, and I didn't watch any of Warsaw Cup this year for the first time in a while. And I really wanted for that program to develop and see what it looked like at nationals. And then he went back to his Impossible Dream program from last year, which I think is perfectly fine because he competed it twice last year. So, and it's a lovely program. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch the Tarzan program. But I think it was ultimately a good decision. He was like, it's just too much to try to debut two new programs at a competition. So I don't know if he'll resurrect the Tarzan program at some point. But all that to be said, like, I vehemently disagree with having his and Elia's program components so close together. And I also feel like with that Camden's PCS were, for instance, in the free skate, Camden got an 84.55 in PCS and Elia got 91.68. Are you telling me they are 7 points apart? Like, that's absurd to me. They should be much closer. I mean, you could make a good argument that Camden should be ahead, but at least close the gap. So anyway, he's on the podium for the first time. He's going to the world team. He did withdraw from Four Continents to prioritize his world's training like Amber did, which understandable, totally agree with. And, frankly, if I'm going to throw shade at Ava Marie Ziegler's team one more time, I think that would have been the smarter play. Come to nationals, show up, do well. If you get named to the world team, then pull out of Four Continents. Or even if you don't pull out of Four Continents, like, prioritize the right competition. But anyway, okay. So super happy for Camden finally making it onto the podium at U.S. Nationals. And I just would love to see some consistency find Camden. A lot of people I saw on Reddit and things like that say, oh, I wish he would take time off from school to pursue skating full time. Well, he's graduating in May. So this is obviously a very smart guy. He had, I think, taken classes at other places before he transferred to Columbia. He's graduating in May. He will have 2 years to focus solely on skating. And so I think, obviously all of those decisions were done with that probably in mind. And so seems to be pulling things together, and I hope that continues to be the case. Fourth place here was Maxim Noamov, and this is his second year getting the pewter medal. Again, I saw a lot of people saying, oh, this is his breakout season. Like, I think you could make a better case for last year being his breakout season, but honestly, this is Max's third time competing at U.S. Nationals, and his worst finish is fifth. So you could also make a great argument that first U.S. Nationals in 2021, when he was fifth, was his breakout season. He won juniors in 2020 and really hasn't had a bad nationals. And here, super strong in the short program, a little bit of an issue on his triple axel, but everything else was solid, level fours on everything. Best that we've seen him this season. We haven't seen him a lot this season. For whatever reason, I don't know why Max didn't get 2 Grand Prix assignments. He finished fourth at last year's nationals. Yes, he was 10th at Four Continents. But, they gave Jimmy Ma 2 Grand Prix assignments, and Jimmy's had a lot of opportunities in the Grand Prix. He was 6th at last year's nationals, and he was just ahead of Max at 9th at Four Continents. I really thought Max should have gotten a couple of Grand Prix assignments, and I hope that he does this next coming season. He was only at Nepala, where he was terrible, absolutely terrible, and he wasn't great at his one at Skate America either. He was 10th. So, but he's had a lot of time in between those particular competitions and now to really improve. And I thought he was really good in both programs. I thought his free skate was the best of this Tosca that I have seen from him all season. And it was funny because he was actually 11 points higher in his total score this season than he was last year, but he got fourth again, just a stronger competition overall. The only thing in his free skate was that he fell on his triple axel in his second half. Everything else was really strong. I did not think that he was as strong artistically as Camden. Like I mentioned, did not think that he should have gotten higher PCS, but had he nailed that triple axel, he would have been second here. And so that would have pushed Camden to fourth and likely would have gotten him named to the world team over Camden. So unfortunate for him that one mistake was the difference between him likely, going to Worlds and not going to Worlds. Because Camden pulled out, he is headed to Four Continents, so he will get another assignment this season. Perhaps he can make the most of this, even with this insane, impossible turnaround. And like I said, I do hope that he gets 2 Grand Prix assignments next season, because he's shown at nationals anyway that he can put it all together. His next step is going to be making more of an impression internationally. Fifth place here was Andrew Torgashev, and he decided to go with no quads in the short program. I think that was smart. He was clean in everything. I thought his short program was maybe my favorite of the entire. Okay, not my favorite more than Jason, but like right there with Jason as my favorite of the whole short program. It was so good. The step sequence was so strong. There was a lot of emotion in it, and this is the best that I have seen Andrew do this season. Because he was also at Skate America, and while he was better than Max, he wasn't fantastic. And so really haven't seen him at his best this season either. He was third at Lombardia earlier in the season, but just felt like we haven't seen near what we saw with him at last year's Nationals. And unfortunately for him in the free skate, he had planned to do a quad toe, popped the quad toe. He also stepped out of his triple axel. He did several good triples in a row, but he just kind of seemed like he just ran out of steam. And I just felt like the program felt like it was 6 minutes long. It just seemed to go on forever. It just did not have the flow that the short program did, in my opinion. I will give him kudos for skating to a Muse song that's not Exogenesis Symphony No. 3. But unfortunately for him, he finished 7th in the free skate, so he fell down to 5th, and he was over 20 points away from Max, so quite a bit of space there, but was able to sort of stay ahead of the next contingent. And I think that he did enough to show U.S. figure skating that, again, he's worthy of some more international assignments. He was already named to the Four Continents team ahead of time, so we will see him there. 6th place was Jimmy Ma, and Jimmy doing what Jimmy does, like one good program and one not good program. His short program, he fell on his quad toe right off the top, and also had a rough landing on the triple axel also in the second half of the program. So he found himself in 9th position going into the free skate and had to skate pretty early on. He came out skating the Phantom of the Opera, and I was so confused because I was like, I have seen Jimmy in a couple of Grand Prix. I know I have not seen him skate the Phantom of the Opera. And I was going out of my mind, and I went and checked ISU figure skating. And as I was looking to see that his previous free skating music was to The Age of Heroes in Lacrimosa, Ashley Wagner was saying on the feed that he changed his free skate. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Because I was like, I know I would remember if he was using Phantom of the Opera. So he debuted a brand new free skate at this event, and it worked out really well for him here. Just fantastic. That's all I wrote in my notes. Fantastic. And moved himself all the way up to 6th place and was less than a point behind Andrew in 5th. So again, I want to see more of this. Jimmy says that he's going to continue on and that he plans to skate for 2 more years. And I'm sure he's trying to vie for an Olympic spot. And I would just love to see Jimmy do what Camden did here. Have a competition where he skates 2 clean programs. It would be awesome. He's such a great performer. I even said during the short program, like him and like Kazuki Tomono and like just a show skate off would be so much fun because they're both such fantastic performers and they bring it on the ice. It's just the jumps just aren't always there. All right. In 7th place was Yaroslav Peno, and he came with probably the biggest technical arsenal outside of Ilya. A lot of the guys here do a quad toe or maybe a quad salchow, and Yaroslav came in with a quad flip. He got a edge call on it in the short program, but he also did a quad toe in the short program as well. So he was maybe the only other person that was attempting 2 quads in the short program. And they both got negative GOE, and he had an issue on his last spin. And for somebody that can, really perform to the crowd, because he was doing Prince in his short program, which was so fun. And I was glad to have something other than the 2 shoes, whatever that he was doing. The last couple of seasons, lost some levels, left some points on the table on some of those non-jump elements. And so he ended up 12th, even with that, big technical arsenal. And then I really didn't know what to expect from him in the free skate. And he came out and really showed out. So he was doing a Queen medley. He started off with We Will Rock You. He started off with that quad flip, got an edge call on it. National scoring, still got positive GOE on it. Landed quad toe, double toe right off the top. It's got a very loud outfit, like red pants, like this black and red jacket. It's choreographed by Ben Augusto. It's a very, very fun program. He ended up 5th in the free skate and moved all the way up to 7th place from 12th. He said he's been frustrated that he hasn't gotten more international assignments. I think he's had, I feel like the last couple of seasons, it's been like a lot of issues at nationals, like boot problems. Like he had his foot up, a la Tanya Harding, I think, like at nationals a couple of seasons ago, and tried to fix the string and couldn't really get it fixed and wasn't able to finish his performance. And so, maybe this is enough and a good champs camp, in the summer to at least get him a Skate America host spot. Maybe I would certainly love to see him get some more competitions, at least send him to some challengers so he could get some more competitions under his belt. And maybe some of these quads that he has in his arsenal could have the opportunity to be a little bit more consistent in a competition setting, because he did show at the 2021 Nationals that he could, put himself in a conversation for world spots, potential Olympic spots. I think that he has a citizenship now. I'm not entirely sure of that. I know that that was an issue 2 years ago, but I'm glad they at least had one good skate here. And I would, again, like I said, love to see him put it all together. In 8th place was Tomoki Hiwatashi, and he found himself in the final group after the short program, clean quad toe in his short program, just an issue on his triple axel. But his free skate was not as successful. I don't really find that Tomoki really connects with the music. He fell on his triple axel, and then he was just super slow going into his second triple axel, and then just popped it into a single. He got the nod to go to Four Continents because, again, the Four Continents team was named before U.S. Nationals because of the quick turnaround, which surprised me because Tomoki didn't get Grand Prix assignments this season as he has in the past. And so I was a little confused as to why they threw him an international assignment here with not a lot to go on. And obviously in, normal years, he probably would not have gotten that nod. It probably would have gone to, Max and Andrew and Jimmy, or, maybe they would have thrown something to Yaroslav, but perhaps he could make a good opportunity at Four Continents this coming week. But I was pretty underwhelmed, unfortunately, by his performances here, even in the free, even in the short program where he did better. To me, he was just kind of there. I would have had Goku Endo, honestly, ahead of him in the short program. And that's not a knock towards Tomoki, but I feel like there's a lot of really good competitors with a lot of good programs here. And just for me, Tomoki just didn't really stand out. In 9th place was Daniel Martinov, and he had the unfortunate ordinals of finishing 8th in both segments of the competition, but finishing 9th overall. He is using the same music that Efimova and Mitrofanov are using, that the Hungarian pair team is using. He started off his free skate just short on the quad toe, not able really to get that free leg out. I feel like he had a lot of nice jumps in his second half. Just felt like there was not a lot of performance in his program. In 10th place was Goko Endo. I thought his short program was so good. He had the unfortunate that he skated a little bit early. He got an edge call on his flip, and maybe that was the difference between him being behind Tomoki Hiwatashi and being in that final group. But I really enjoyed his short program. Just thought he had beautiful elements and really nice program. Unfortunately for him in the free skate, had some issues there, fell on his triple axel, did a triple flip, double axel combo, which was, again, one of these 3 jump combinations with the 2 double axels that we've seen. He's skating to the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. I feel like he's got just really nice artistry and a really nice skater. He's somebody that I would love to see a little bit more of in the future. Doesn't seem like he's got a quad in his arsenal quite yet, but he does have some really nice elements in that second mark part of his programs. 11th place here was Kai Kovar, and he was using like an orchestral version of Fix You in his free skate, which was a choice. I suppose at least it was different than just our standard Fix You. He did a triple axel, triple toe in his program, which I always love. I love those nods to the 90s. Then his next jump was a double axel, which I'm imagining was a planned, supposed to be a planned triple axel there. At some point in his performance, he did a single Lutz triple toe, which, mad respect for you with with doing the triple toe on after you've popped the jump. That was very Kaori Sakamoto of you. And yeah, that's all I have about Kai. 12th place here was Daniel Samoan, and he is a former competitor from Israel. He last competed for Israel in the 21-22 season. He was actually at the 2018 Olympics for Israel. So he said he wanted to come to the U.S. because he wanted to improve his skating and have greater competition than what he had in Israel. Interesting. He was third at nationals in 2022 and didn't make the Olympic team, but sure, why not? I don't know if he has aspirations to compete internationally or what exactly. He had a very much of a Brian Boitano like throwback shirt. Like if you watched skating in the 90s, you watched specifically pro skating in the 90s. Like Brian Boitano was famous for having like these flowy shirts and skating to like Phantom of the Opera, and like that shirt like totally looked like something Brian Boitano would wear like back then. All right, 13th place here. The last competitor I'm going to talk about is Liam Kapakis, and we saw him on the Grand Prix and in the Challenger circuit, and he's really struggled just all season, and here was just no different. Unfortunately for him, fell on his triple axel in his short program, only got a double toe off of his triple lutz also, and so he found himself in 10th and was hoping that he would be able to pull up in the free skate, but just came out with a quad sail, which I don't know how often he lands this, but it was just kind of a rough. And then, Adam was talking about during his skate, like the difference between like falling on a jump and like popping a jump, because the next two jumps that he did were single axles. And he was like, it would be better for him to fall because where he fell on that quad sail at the beginning of his program, got a Q call, so it wasn't called under. He ended up with 4.85 points on that element. Now he'll end up with a point deduction for the fall. But the next jump where he popped the single axle, he only got 1.26 for that. And so it would actually have been better for him to have done a triple axle and fell points-wise than it was for him to pop it. And he popped it again on his next jumping pass, which he got the triple Salchow off of that triple axle Euler triple Salchow combination, but only the single axle on that. He also doubled two other jumps in his program. And so just really a rough outing for him. He had a great spread eagle in there, but it was a bit rough overall. So, all right. The other just couple notables, like Will Annis, who finished 16th here, had a quad toe double axle combo right off the top in his free skate. And for most of us that were on Twitter, that was the first time we could recall having a quad toe double axle combo. So pretty smart, calculations from his team. It ended up getting him about 19 points. Unfortunately, the rest of his program was kind of a disaster, but that was just an interesting one there. And he actually had a triple axle, double axle that didn't count because he was one of these that did too many double axles in his program. So yeah, just a rough outing for him. Triple axles were just not firing for him because he popped his triple axle into a double and he'd already done two double axles in that sequence. And so he didn't get credit for that at all. And then his other triple axle that he had later in his program, he actually fell on. So maybe that's why the whole quad toe, double axle, not a great idea, because it's kind of like people that pop their quad toe. Well, then you've got to count how many triple toes you do later in the program. So bummer for him. Love the song choice to your song. But yeah, thought I would at least mention him for that cool quad toe, double axle combo. And the other one I'll mention is Samuel Mindra, who ended up in 15th place, who was skating to Guardians of the Galaxy. Technically was not great, but it was so fun. All right, so that completes my coverage for the men's event at U.S. Nationals. And I'll be back in just a few days, it seems, with more coverage of four continents. So obviously, in the meantime, since Nationals has ended and me recording this podcast, a lot has gone on with the Valieva case. So you might get a quick episode from me in a day or two on my thoughts on that whole drama that continues. It's looked like it was resolved and now we're getting appeals and on. But you can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcast, Instagram, X, not really active on Threads, but I'm there, and also on YouTube. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you again soon.